Good evening, YouTube. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a mistake that I feel like a lot of people make when trying to get the body of their dreams. And it's not something that I feel like gets discussed enough, and it's something that kind of happens more under the surface and in our psychology. But before I get into the topic of that video, if there is any topics that you would like me to cover in the future, please leave them in the comment section below. The best comments I will turn into videos just like this one. And if you would like to work with me for coaching, the links are in the description as well to get in contact with me, and we can work on your strength and physique goals. So let's get into the topic of today's video: the mistake people make when trying to build the body of their dreams. The first and most common issue, sorry about that, is that people get too attached to the style of training that worked for whoever it is their hero. What do I mean by this? For me, when I first started getting into training, lifting weights, the person who I had the biggest amount of respect for was Brian Allsrue. He had a very impressive physique. He was incredibly lean, incredibly muscular, incredibly strong. So what did I do? I trained like Brian Allsrue. I did giant sets. I did mainly basic barbell movements. I did a main strength work for the day, supplementary work, and then an accessory giant set. So 9 exercises paired up in 3s, and then going about it in that kind of way. I should have done more ab work, but to be quite honest, that's what I kind of skipped out on. But the spirit of my training was very much inspired by Brian Allsrue. So a lot of what I did, a lot of what I was trying to do in my training wasn't really meant for my goal. It was just meant to be, okay, there's a body out there that I really like, that I want to look like. Let me do exactly what that person does. And this is where I feel we make a huge mistake. Because first and foremost, we undervalue the effect of genetics, drugs, and we sometimes overvalue strength. So when you look at, let's say, other examples of this phenomenon, when I was getting into training, another side of things were like the aesthetics bras, kind of like the aesthetic bra kind of community getting up and running, right? The David Lades of the world, the Jeff Sides of the world, the Christian Guzmans of the world. All of that was coming out, and every single person who looked at them to be their heroes would copy that style of training. And like I said, we undervalue the effect of genetics, drugs, and on the other side of things, we sometimes overvalued strength. If we found a strength athlete who looked incredible, we would think that it's because of their training, and so we would try to copy like them, and then we would become powerlifters and knockoff versions of the people we try to emulate. Strength training is a very effective way to get big, but it's not entirely efficient. There's not really better or worse or good or bad. It just is more efficient ways to do what you want to do. And if you have the goal of looking better, being more muscular, being more aesthetic, what is going to be most efficient for you is not just copying what someone else is doing. It's learning about yourself and learning about your craft. So another part that we have to talk about when it comes to overvaluing strength is the fact that strength is a skill, and there is a genetic component to that, like neurologically, how your joints are, your leverages. There's a lot of things that are going to affect your strength that aren't entirely based on you as a lifter, your training, and everything like that, right? So here's one important thing that I want to make sure gets across. Anyone can look better and build muscle. Anyone can. Yes, looking better and building muscle does have a genetic component to it as well, but there is not a single person out there who can't improve upon their body or build muscle. The thing is that while everyone can get better and look better, not everyone will reach certain levels of strength. For example, a 405 bench press. I think a lot of people can get to a 405 bench press naturally, but the amount of things that you would have to do in order to pursue that might not be efficient, especially if your goal is just to look better. Sorry, my hair is getting in my eyes. I don't have any product in it right now, so this is what my hair looks like when I don't have anything in it. But getting to a 4 or 5 bench, I don't think there is a single person in this world who will not get a big watermelon set of pecs if they get a 405 bench, but think about the process that it would take to get there and how inefficient that might be for some people, and especially if they're not particularly built to bench press or their joints just quite can't handle that heavy of a load. At a certain point, it gets a little absurd. So that's something we need to kind of like take into consideration. Drugs, genetics, yes, they play a role in how some people react to their training, and so we sometimes undervalue those two factors, but at the same time, we sometimes overvalue strength. Another thing that I want to talk about is, and it's an analogy I like to use, and it's kind of like the swordsmanship of a king versus a king's swordsmanship. So an anime that my girlfriend recommended to me is The Ranking of Kings, and there's a character in there who is, due to some circumstances, is just incredibly weak. And there was a scene where he is winning a fight, but he's doing so in a way using techniques that's not entirely respected by other people, but it's working for him. And so people say that that's a coward's form of swordsmanship. He wasn't cheating per se, he was just fighting in a way that maximized his own strength. So, but people said that's not the swordsmanship of a king. So when he's tried to use more conventional sword fighting techniques, he got his ass absolutely beat. So what I want to get across to you is the fact that the peekaboo style is not what made Mike Tyson Mike Tyson. The Philly shell is not what made Floyd Mayweather Floyd Mayweather. How your favorite lifter trains is not always what made him that way. For example, with someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for someone like your Jeff Sides, your David Lades, your Brian Alsrew, your Alpha Destinies, anyone that you can think of, what they have done is found something that works for them. You need to do the same thing. Now, copying what they do can be useful to an extent, but at the end of the day, you have to figure something that works for you. You do not get any societal special brownie points for training a certain way. You don't get any amount of, you don't get a better social credit score, if you want to use that analogy, or like people won't view you any better because you build a physique with the squat, bench, and deadlift, or if you didn't build a physique with the squat, bench, and deadlift. It doesn't really matter how you build your physique if you just build the physique that you want. So some might call it dishonorable, like, oh, you didn't squat, bench, and deadlift your way to a good physique, like how dare you? But who fucking cares? If your goal is to look better, do what works for you. This is not advice to cheat your way to a better physique by using things like anabolic steroids, because I will never advocate the use of those things on this channel, because I do think that everyone can get to their dream physique naturally, at least as long as it's like reasonable, right? But for the most part, you can look better, build muscle naturally, and you don't need to resort to anabolics, surgeries, or whatever else have you, right? So how do we kind of solve this issue? First and foremost is that you are going to have to be open-minded. You are going to have to be open-minded with the fact that, yes, while there might be someone out there who has the physique that you want, that their training methods just might not work for you at all. And that's okay. You should be more concerned with actually getting what you want from your training. The main reason why people give up is because they will spend so much time, effort, and because they're not getting anything out of it, they'll start to lose faith with why they're training in the first place, and then they'll give up. And that's one of the worst things that can happen to any person in the gym, whether it's because they chose a physique that's just so unattainable, or they tried following a method that just doesn't work for them, or because of some trainer or some person told them that they have to train in a specific kind of way, and if they don't do it, then the problem is with them. That's just all horrible advice that I think should just go completely away. If what you're doing is not working, the problem is not always with you. Sometimes it really is what you're doing. And if what you're doing is not working, then you are free to change it. If someone told you you have to train a specific way and you're not getting any results from it, you don't have to force yourself to continually fit into that mold that just is not allowing you to grow. It becomes a problem when you are unable to break away from something that is not good for you. And sometimes, and something I'm come to accept more and more, is that sometimes that is trying to think that the squat, bench, and deadlift are the best way to build muscle. They're just not. So, in conclusion, what can we do? First, don't pick a person and then learn everything they do and try to copy it. You should study yourself and study your craft. If you have a goal of strength, you should learn about strength training and yourself and then try to fit you into what you learn rather than trying to just fit yourself into what someone else is doing. Understand that the methods that made your hero, your dream physique, might not be the methods that you will use to get the same results. What you need most will sometimes be where you least want to look. As much as I love strength training, as much as I love barbell training, I do have to recognize that when I spend more time on machines, whether they be plate loaded or cables, I tend to get better hypertrophy results. And because my current goals are more in line with that, that is where more of my time in my training is going. You need to do what works. You need to find what works for you. There are not an infinite number of things that will work. You can't just, throw together some haphazard plan, but the right path, the effective path, the efficient path, while there's not an infinite number of them, there are a shit ton of them still out there. So find one that works for you, learn about yourself as a trainer, as a trainee, and then commit yourself to that path with the utmost amount of intensity and passion. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Carlos the King, StanceTraining.com. If you would like to support the channel, you can do so by buying merch, supporting me on Patreon, becoming a member of the channel, or buying some Stance Strength merch. We do have some shirts, tanks, and other products that will be going onto the store in the coming days. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.